Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our discount banner design series into this single long video. Now in this video we are basically going to create this design right here using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And this is completely responsive, so if I decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on a smartphone. So we're going to design this in this video, and I will also show you how to add this to your Blogger website at the end. And I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. Alright, so let's get started. So here we can see we have this text over here on the left side, and then we have this countdown timer in the center, and then we have this button. So this is basically a link. You can add the link of any page over here, and then we have this close button. Now this countdown timer is completely responsive, so if I decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on a tablet. So we can see that all this content is on the left side, and if I decrease the width of the browser window even more, this is how it will look on a smartphone. So it is completely responsive. And here we have this close button, and if I click on that, the banner disappears, and even if we refresh this page, it will not be displayed. So we are basically setting a cookie, and we will store it for 24 hours. So after 24 hours the banner will again be displayed. So if I click over here and go to inspect, and if I go to application, here we can see inside cookies we have this cookie called discount closed. And if I just delete this, and if I refresh this page, we can see that the banner is displayed once again. Now after this timer ends, the banner will disappear. Right here I have created this folder called discount countdown, and let's go ahead and create the necessary files. So let's click on new file, and let's create an HTML file. I'll just name it index.html. And let's also create a CSS file. I'll just name it style.css. And we'll also create a JavaScript file. I'll just name it main.js. Right, let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code you can just press exclamation and press tab, and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. And let's link our CSS file over here. So I'll just type link and press tab, and the href I'll just type style or CSS. And let's also link the JavaScript file. So I'll just type script :src and press tab, and here I'll just type main.js. Right, now let's start with the HTML of our design. So the first thing we will do is we'll create a container division, and let's give it a class of discount container. And in this we will have a division for the info. So here we can see on the left side we have the info. So let's create a division for that, and I'll just give it a class of info. Now in this we need to have the discount heading and this subheading. So let's create a division with the class of discount heading, and let's type massive sale. And let's create another division with the class of discount subheading. And here let's type up to 75% off. Right, the next thing we need to have is the countdown timer. So let's create a division for that, and let's give it a class of countdown timer. Now in this we need to have groups of elements. So we need to have this days value, and then we need to have this text days displayed over here. So let's create a division with the class of group, and in that we will have a division with the class of value. And for this we will add random value, and for this we'll also give it a class of days so that we can reference that in JavaScript. Alright, let's duplicate this, and for the next one let's give it a class of unit, and here I'll just type days. Right, now let's duplicate this, and let's paste it 3 more times. And for the second one let's add a random value. I'll just type 0 for now. So I'll just add 0 for all these values. And here I'll just change the class name to hours, and here I'll just type hours. I'll just type HRS, and then we need to have minutes, so I'll just change this class to minutes, and here I'll just type min. And then we have seconds, and here I'll just type sec. So this is basically the timer. Now let's go ahead and create the button. So here we have this button. Now for this we'll create an anchor tag so that it is clickable. So here let's create an anchor tag, and let's give it a class of discount btn, and here I'll just type learn more, And here you can just add the link of your discount page. And then lastly, we need to have the close icon. So let's create a division for that. Let's give it a class of close icon. And in this we will add the icon. So for the icon we will use heroicons.com. So here I'm in heroicons.com and let's search for close. And here we have the close icon. I'll just copy the SVG from here and let's paste it over here. And now let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called Live Server installed in VS Code. So once you install that, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on Open with Live Server. So now we can see that all the elements of our website are displayed over here. Now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go back to our HTML. And here we can see we have already linked our CSS file. Now the first thing we will do is we'll just decrease the width of this close icon so that we can see all these elements clearly. So for the close icon, we have this division with the class of close icon. And it is inside this container division, discount container. So let's go to our style.css file and let's type discount container close icon, or I'll just change this to close btn. So here let's type close btn and let's change the width to 20 pixels. Right now we can see here we have the close icon. Right now let's style the container division, which is a discount container. So let's type discount container. Now the first thing we will do is we will set the position to fixed so that it is always on the top of our website. So let's type position fixed and we'll set the top position to 0 and the left position to 0. And here we can see this is how it looks. Now we need to have all these elements one next to the other. So for that, let's set the display to flex and we'll also add a gap of 30 pixels. And now we can see this is how it looks. Let's also bring all of this to the center. So let's type justify content and center. Now we can see it is still not in the center. That's because we don't have the correct width. So if I just add a background color over here, we can see that this is the width of the element right now. So let's set the width of the element to 100%. Now we can see that it is exactly in the center. Right now let's go ahead and change the background color. So first of all, let's set the background color to a dark color. So I'll just type 023047. So this is going to be the default color. Now let's also add a radial gradient. So here we can see we have different colors over here on the left and on the right side. So for that, let's type background image and let's type radial gradient. And here for the values, let's type circle 610 pixels at 5.2%, 51%. And let's set the color to RGBA 5, 8, 114, 1. And let's type 0%. You can also delete this 1 from here and also this A from here. And let's type RGB 7, 3, 53. And for this we will type 97%. Now let's go back and here we can see we have different color on the left side and on the right side we have a different color. Right now let's change the text color to white. So here let's type color white and let's set the font family to Inter and sans serif. Now we need to get the link of this Inter font family from Google Fonts. So let's do that. Here I'm in fonts.google.com and let's search for Inter. And let's select this font and we need to get the bold version and also the regular version. So let's scroll down and let's click on select regular 400 and let's scroll down and we'll also select one of these bold versions. I'll just select extra bold 800 and here we can see we have this link. I'll just copy this link from here and let's go back and I'll just paste it over here in the head section of the HTML. Right now let's go back to our style.css file and let's add some padding. So I'll just type padding and I'll just set it to 8 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. So this is how it looks right now. Now let's style this heading. So for the heading we have this division with the class of discount heading. So let's type discount container discount heading and for this let's set the font size to 18 pixels. And let's set the font weight to bold. And now let's style this subheading. So let's type discount container, discount subheading. And for this, let's set the font size to 16 pixels. And let's add some margin between these two elements. So here I'll just type margin bottom, and let's set it to 4 pixels. Right now let's style this countdown timer. So let's go back, and for that we have this division with the class of countdown timer. Now the first thing we will do is we will set all these groups one next to the other. So let's type discount container countdown timer, and let's set the display to flex, and we'll set a gap of 16 pixels. Right now let's style the groups so that all these elements are in the center vertically. So let's go back and let's tap countdown timer group. So here we have these elements with class of group. So let's set the display to flex, and we'll set the flex direction to column and align items to the center, and let's set a gap of 6 pixels. Right now let's style the values. So for the values we have these divisions with class of value. So let's tap countdown timer value, and for the value I'll just set a background color of white, and let's set the color of the text to dark gray, and we'll set the font size to 20 pixels, and let's set the font weight to bold, and let's also add a padding. So just a padding, and let's set the padding to 8 pixels. Right now if you go back to the HTML file, and if I just change this to 1, here we can see that for this one we have less width, and for all the other ones we have a larger width because 1 doesn't take up too much space. So for that let's go back, and here we will just set a fixed width. So I just have width, and let's set it to 24 pixels. Let's see how it looks, and I think that looks alright. Let's also set the text align to center. Right now let's set the border radius so that we can have rounded corners. So I'll just have border radius, and I'll just set it to 4 pixels, and that looks alright. Now let's style these units. So for the units we have class of unit. So let's tap countdown timer unit, and for this let's set the font size to 13 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Now here we can see that this content is at the top. It is not exactly in the center. So for that let's go back to the container division, and here let's type align items to the center. Now we can see it is exactly in the center. Right now let's style this learn more button. So for that we have an anchor tag with the class of discount btn. So let's type discount container discount btn, and let's set the padding to 8 pixels top and bottom and 24 pixels left and right, and let's set a background color. So I'll just have background, and I'll just set it to RGB 99 251 215. Right now for this button let's add linear gradient. So let's tap background image, and let's tap linear gradient, and here let's tap 68 degrees, and for the first color let's tap RGB 99 251 215, and here I'll just tap 0%, and then for the second color let's tap RGB 5 222 250, and let's set this to 100%, and now we can see we have this linear gradient. Right now let's set the font size. So I'll just tap font size, and let's set it to 14 pixels, and let's set the font weight to bold, and we'll set the color of the text to black. Let's also remove this underline. So let's tap text decoration none, and let's also add border radius. So just tap border radius 4 pixels, and we'll also make it uppercase. So I'll just tap text transform uppercase. Right now let's add a hover effect. So when we hover over this we can see that the button grows. So for that let's tap discount container discount btn hover, and here I'll just tap transform scale, and I'll just set it to 1.03, and we'll also have a smooth transition. So I'll just tap transition all 400 milliseconds ease, and now if you hover over this we can see that we have the hover effect for the button. Now the last thing we need to style is this close button. So for that let's go back, and For the close button, we have this division with the class of close btn. So let's type discount container close btn, and for this I'll just type position and let's set it to fixed, and let's set the top position to 20 pixels and the right position to 20 pixels as well. And let's add a background color. So let's type background and I'll just set it to RGBA 255, 255, 255, and for the opacity I'll just type 0.1, and let's set a padding of 3 pixels, and we'll also have a border radius of 50% so that it has round shape. And right now the close icon is not exactly in the center of the container. So here if I just increase this opacity, here we can see that it is not exactly in the center. So for that you have to type display of flex, and now we can see that it is exactly in the center. So let's change this back to 1. I think we can change the top position to 24 pixels. Right now let's add a hover effect. So let's type discount container close btn colon hover. Now for the hover, I'll just copy this background color from here and paste it over here. And when we hover over this, we'll just change the opacity to 0.3. Let's also set the cursor to pointer, and we'll set a transition of all 400 milliseconds each. And now we can see we have this hover effect. Alright, that's basically it with the design. Now let's go ahead and add the responsive versions. First of all, let's add a media query over here. And let's set the max width to 800 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 800 pixels, all these CSS will be added to our design. So here I'll just select the discount container. And when we have a smaller width, we need to have all these elements to the left of the screen. So here we can just type justify content. And if we scroll up, here we can see we have set it to center. So here we can simply type flex start. So now we can see it is on the left side. We'll also add a little bit of padding on the left side. So here let's type padding left, and I'll just set it to 30 pixels. So this is how it looks. Right now let's add another media query for the smartphone version. So I'll just type add media, and let's set the max width to 640 pixels. And let's type discount container. And when we are on a smartphone version, we will have all these elements one below the other. So for that, let's type flex direction, and let's set it to column, and we'll also text align everything to the center. And let's remove the padding from the left. So I'll just type padding left 0. And here we have a lot of gap. So let's type gap, and I'll just set the gap to 16 pixels. So with that, our design is complete. We have also made it responsive. Right, here's our source code, and if you go to the HTML file, here we can see that we have already linked the main.js file. So let's go ahead and start with the functionality. The first thing we will do is we will add the functionality of this close button. So when we click on this close button, this banner should disappear. So for the close button, if you go to the HTML, here we can see we have a division with the class of close btn. So let's go to our main.js file and let's reference that. Let's type const close btn equals document.querySelector, and here let's type discount container close btn. And when we click on this close button, we need to hide the discount container. So here we have this main container division which has a class of discount container. So we need to reference this as well. So here let's type const discount container equals document.querySelector discount container. Right, now let's go ahead and add an event listener to this close button. So let's type close btn.add event listener, and let's listen for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here. And when we click on this close button, we need to hide this discount container. So let's type discount container dot style dot display, and we'll just set the display to none. Right, now let's go back to our website, and if I click on this close button, we can see that the banner disappears. Now if you refresh this page, it comes back. That's because the browser doesn't know that we had clicked this close button. So for that we need to add a cookie inside the browser, and we need to tell it that the close button was clicked, and then the browser will know that the close button was clicked, and it will not show this banner again. Now we can set a time frame for how long a cookie should stay in the browser. For this example, I'll just set the cookie for 24 hours. So let's go back and let's write the code for the cookie. So we'll create a function called setCookie. And for this function, we'll pass 3 parameters. The first one will be the name of the cookie. So let's name it discount closed. And then we need to have the value of the cookie. I'll just set it to true. And then we will have the duration of the cookie. So I'll just set it to 24 hours. Right now, let's create this function. So let's type const setCookie. And here we will add the 3 parameters. I just call them name, value, and duration. And let's create an arrow function. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to get the current time. So let's store that in a variable. I'll just type const and I'll just name it expires, and we'll just set it to new date. So this will give us the current time. So if I just console.log it, and if you go back to our website, and if you go to the inspector, and if you go to console, and let's click on this close button, and now we can see that in the console we have the current date and time displayed over here. Now what we need to do is we need to add 24 hours to this time. So we need to get the time in a different format. So if we go back, and here if I just type expires.getTime, now if you go back and if I click on this close button, and now here we can see that we have this time in milliseconds. So this is basically from a specific date, and from that date till this current time we have this many milliseconds passed. Now what we can do is we can just add the number of milliseconds for 24 hours in our case. So let's go back to our code, and here we can just delete the console log, and here let's type expires.setTime. So this is a function in JavaScript, and here we will first of all get the time in milliseconds. So let's type expires.getTime, and then we need to add the number of milliseconds for this many hours. So in our case it is 24 hours. So let's type plus duration. That's what we are calling it over here. And then we need to type times 60, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. And then in a minute we have 60 seconds. So let's type times 60. And then in a second we have 1000 milliseconds. So let's type 1000. So this will give us the milliseconds for 24 hours after the current time. Right now let's write the code for the cookie. So let's type document.cookie equals, and let's add it in backticks. And here let's type $ curly braces, because this is a variable. And here let's type name, and then let's type equals, and we will set it to the value of the name, which is true. So we are calling it value. So let's type $ curly braces value, and after that we need to add a semicolon, and then we need to type expires equals, and then we need to type this variable name expires. So let's type $ curly braces expires, and we need to change this into a different format. So let's type to UTC string, and then we need to type semicolon path equals /. Right now let's save this, and let's go back to our website. So let's click on this close icon, and now the banner has disappeared. So let's open the inspector. Now to see the cookies, you have to go over here to application, and then in cookies you have this website, and here we can see we have this cookie called discount closed. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to display the banner only when we don't have this cookie stored. So for now I'll just delete this cookie, and let's go back to our code, and let's add an if condition over here. So just type if document.cookie.indexOf, and here we need to add the cookie name. So let's type discount closed equals true, and we have to see whether this is not equal to -1. So this line of code basically says that the cookie is available. So if the cookie is available, we need to hide the discount container. So let's type discount container.style.display equals none. Right now let's go back to our website, and let's click on this close icon, and we can see that the banner has disappeared. Now let's refresh this page, and the banner is being displayed once again. So let's go back and let's see what's the problem. So here we can see that we have this typo. We didn't type a D over here, so let's tap discount closed. And now let's go back, and now if you refresh this page, the banner is not being displayed. But if you go back to the console, and if we go to application, and if we just delete this cookie, and now if we refresh this page, we can see that the banner is displayed once again. So the cookie is working all right. Now let's write the code for displaying the countdown timer. So let's go back to our code. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to reference all the elements. So if you go to the HTML file, here we can see we have this division of the class of days, and then we have hours, minutes, and seconds. So we need to reference all these elements because we need to change these values over here. I'll just change this to 0. Right now let's go back to the main.js file and let's reference all those elements. So let's type const days equals document.querySelector countdown timer days, and I'll just duplicate this 3 more times. And for the second one, let's change this to hours, and then for the third one, let's change this to minutes, and then for the fourth one, let's change this to seconds. Right now we need to update the value every 1 second, so let's create a set interval. So I'll just tap let, and I'll just name it t equals set interval, and for the interval I'll just type 1000, which is 1 second. Right now we need to write the code for the timer over here. Before that, let's go ahead and create a variable for the end date. So here I'll just create a const, and I'll just name it countdown date, and we'll just set it to new date. And here we need to add the date when the countdown should end. So I'll just add a random date over here. So I'll just type 2023 02 20 t, and for the time let's type 000000, and then we need to type dot get time. So this will store the exact time of this date into this countdown date variable. Right now let's scroll down, and here let's write the code. Let's create a variable for the current time. So let's type let now equals new date, and we need to type dot get time because we need to get in milliseconds. And now we need to calculate the difference between the current time and this specified time over here. So let's type let, and I'll just name it distance equals countdown date minus now. So this will give us the difference of this variable and this countdown date variable over here. Right now we need to get the values of days, hours, minutes, and seconds. So we need to get those values from this distance variable. So let's type let days value equals, and here we need to type distance divided by, and here we need to type 1000, which is milliseconds, times 60, which is seconds, times 60, which is minutes, times 24, which is hours. And we will use the floor value of this result. So let's type math.floor, and let's add all of this inside math.floor, and let's also convert this into a string. So let's type to string. Right now let's create the variable for the hours. So let's type let hours value equals math.floor, and here we need to type distance, and we need to add this modulo operator, and then we need to type 1000 milliseconds times 60 seconds times 60 minutes times 24 hours, and we need to divide all of this with a different value. So let's add all of this inside parentheses, and let's type divided by 1000 times 60 times 60. So this will give us the hours value. Now this modulo operator means that it will give us the remainder of this division as the result, not the quotient. So let's type let minutes value equals, and we need to add almost the similar code. So let's copy this code from here, and here we'll also add dot toString. Right now let's copy this code from here, and let's paste it over here for the minutes value. And for the minutes we can just remove the 24 from here. Right now let's write the code for the seconds. So I'll just copy this line of code from here, and let's paste it down here. And here we need to type seconds value, and here we need to change this to 1000 times 60, and here we need to just change this to 1000. And for the minutes you have to change this to 1000 times 60. So this is going to be the code. Right now let's see whether this works. So here we have already referenced the elements days, hours, minutes, and seconds. So those are from this HTML file, and those are these elements over here. So let's add these values to these elements over here. So let's type days.innerHTML equals days value, and hours.innerHTML equals hours value, minutes.innerHTML equals minutes value, and seconds.innerHTML equals seconds value. Right now we also need to add an if condition for when this timer ends. So when this countdown date reaches, we need to hide this discount container from here, and we also need to stop this interval. So let's type if, let's type distance is less than 0. So here we can see we are calculating the distance, and if the distance is less than 0, then it means that the countdown date has reached. So here we need to type clear interval, and we need to add the name of the interval, which is t, and then we need to hide the discount container. So let's type discount container dot style dot display equals none. Right now let's go back to our website and let's see whether the timer is working alright. So here we can see that the timer is working alright. Let's wait for this to reach 0. Let's see whether this changes to 14. And we can see that everything is working alright. Now the last thing we need to do is when we have just a single digit, we need to add a 0 to the end or to the left side. So let's go back, and we can add that pretty easily. So we can just type dot pad start. So this will add an element to the start. Here we need to add two arguments. The first one is the max length, and the second one is the string that should be added. So for the length, let's type 2, and for the string we'll just type 0. So it will add 0 for every one digit number. So now if you go back to our website, here we can see that it says 0, 1 instead of just 1. Let's add the same for all the other values. So I'll just copy this from here, and let's paste it over here, and let's do the same for minutes value and seconds value. Now let's go back to our website, and we can see that everything is working alright. So that's basically how you can create a discount countdown timer using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right here I'm in the dashboard of my Blogger website, and we're going to add this inside the theme code. So let's click on theme, and this is the theme that I'm using right now, and it is called Contempo Lite, which comes by default with Blogger. Let's open our website and let's see how it looks right now. And here we can see this is the website, and this is the post page. So we're going to add our banner at the top over here. So for that, let's go back to the dashboard, and let's click on this arrow and let's click on edit HTML. And now let's add our code over here. So let's go to the end of our theme code, just before the body tag ends. So we're going to add our code over here. Now since we are using position of fixed for this banner, the banner will always be displayed at the top even if we add the code at the bottom. So let's go ahead and add the code over here. So let's go to the source code, and I will leave the link of the source code in the description. So let's go ahead and go to the HTML file, and let's go ahead and copy all this HTML from here till here, and let's paste it in our Blogger theme code. And now we need to paste the JavaScript. So let's create a script tag over here. And let's go back to the source code, and let's go to the main.js file, and let's copy all this JavaScript from here, and let's paste it over here. And now here we can see it is giving me this error. That's because instead of less than sign we have to type %LT semicolon, because we are using XML for writing the code. Right now let's add the CSS. So let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the style.css file, and let's copy all this CSS from here, and let's go to the CSS of our theme code. So here we can see this is all the CSS. So I'll just go to the end of the CSS, and here I'll just create a comment. I'll just type discount banner, and let's paste the CSS over here. Right now if we go back to the HTML file, here we can see that we have this code over here, and you can make changes to this. So this is the heading that you see over here, and then we have this subheading. You can change all this text to whatever you want, and then we have the timer over here, and then here we can see we have this learn more button, which is this button right here, and you can add the link of any page over here. So you can basically add the link of your discount page right here. And then if you go to the main.js file, here we can see we have all the functionality of our discount banner. And here we can see we have this countdown date, and this is when the timer should end. So you can add the end date over here. You can add it in this format, year, month, date, and then you can add the time over here. And if you scroll down here, we can see that this is where we are setting the cookie, and you can add the duration of the cookie right here. In our example, I have set it to 24 hours. You can change this to whatever you want. And this is the code for displaying the timer. Right, that's basically it with the code. Now let's go back to our Blogger website, and let's save this theme. So let's click on save. And now let's go back to our Blogger website, and let's refresh this page. And right now we cannot see the banner. So if you scroll down, here we have the banner, but it is below all the other elements in our website. So we need to add a Z index. So let's go back to our CSS. And here for the container division, which is discount container, we need to add a Z index. So I'll just type Z index, and I'll just set it to, let's try 500. And let's save this. And now let's go back to our website, and let's refresh this page. And now we can see that our banner is displayed over here. And if you go to any of these posts, we have the banner displayed over here as well. But here we can see on the top, we cannot see the full website. The content of the website is below this banner. So we need to add some margin to the top of our contents. So let's go back to our code. And here in this CSS, let's go ahead and type body. And for the body, we need to add a margin top. So if you go back to the website, and if you right click over here and go to inspect, and if you take a look at the element, here we can see on the top left corner it says that the width is 1280 pixels and the height is 76 pixels. So we need to add a margin top of 76 pixels. So let's go back, and here let's type margin top 76 pixels, and let's save this. And now let's go back to our website, and let's refresh this page. And now we can see we have the correct margin for our website. If you go to the main page, here also we have the correct margin. So everything is looking alright. Now if you go ahead and click on this close button, let's see what happens. Now we can see even if we refresh this page, we have the margin at the top. If you go to the home page, we have the margin over here. So we need to check whether the discount banner is displayed, and if it is displayed, we have to add the margin, and if it is not displayed, then we have to remove the margin. So for that, let's go back to our code, and let's go to the JavaScript. And here in the JavaScript, first of all, let's reference the body. So I'll just type const body equals document.query selector, and here let's type body. And now we need to remove the margin when we hide the discount banner. So here we can see we have this event listener for the close button, and in that we are hiding the banner. So here we also need to add the code to remove the margin. So let's type body dot style dot margin top, and we'll just set it to 0 pixels. And let's copy this line of code from here, and let's scroll down. And here also we have an if condition where we are checking whether we have the cookie, and if we have the cookie, then we don't need to display the banner. So here also we will add the code for removing the margin. So I'll just paste it over here, and let's scroll down, and here also we have the code to hide the banner. So here also I'll just add the same code. Right now let's save this. And now let's go back to our website, and let's refresh this page. And now we can see we don't have any margin. Now let's see whether we have the margin when we have the banner displayed. So let's remove the cookie. So just go to application, and let's go over here to cookies, and I'll just remove this discount closed cookie. Now if you go back to our website and if I refresh this page, now we can see that the banner is displayed and we also have the margin at the top. Let's go to the home page, and here also we have the margin. So everything is working alright. So that's basically how you can add a discount countdown banner to your Blogger website. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. I will leave the link of the source code in the description. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.